Hey guys, this is Mr. Grice for Algebra 1, Chapter 13.3 Notes. Today we are talking about probabilities involving or and and. So we're talking about two different types of probabilities today. Now, probabilities involving or measures how likely it is for one event or another event to occur. And when that happens, we want to add their probability. Okay? So we would take the probability of one plus the probability of the second event. Okay? And remember that when we're taking probability, we want the want over the total plus the want from the other side and the total. Okay? So we have two events that are going to occur. Okay? So use the spinner at the right to determine what the probability is. Okay? So what is the probability that the spinner will stop on a 3 or a 5? So it can be on one or the other. So we talked yesterday about probability that we could write out all the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right? So they want the probability of landing on a 3. Well, there's one chance out of a total of 8. Okay? Now, what's the probability that it would land on a 5? Well, that is also 1 out of 8. Let's make that look like an 8. So what we would do is we would add those two together. 1/8 plus 1/8. And that is 2 over 8. We would reduce that to 1/4. And if you're putting it as a fraction, or a decimal, that'd be 0.25. Okay, and we talked about the probability you always round to the second decimal. Okay. All right. What is the probability that the spinner will stop on a number that is greater than 6? Okay. So the probability of it landing greater than 6. Well, how many numbers are greater than 6? I see 2. Okay. So that would be 2 over 8. Okay, what about the probability of a number that is less than 3? Okay, there are only 2 numbers that are less than 3. And remember, I would not reduce these until we're done adding them up. Okay, so 2 out of 8 plus 2 out of 8, that equals 4 out of 8. And if we were to reduce that, we would get 1/2. And 1/2 as a decimal is 0.5. Okay, what is the probability that the spinner will stop on an even or an odd number? Think about that one for a second, okay? So we gotta do probability of even. Well, the probability of even, okay, you got 4 chances. And then when we add that with the probability of getting an odd, well, when it's an odd, we have 4 chances. So what happens when you add those two up? You should get a 1, so this is always going to happen. You're either going to roll an even or an odd. It can't be anything else than that. Okay? Alright. Example number 2 says a 6-sided die is rolled. Find the probabilities below. Okay, die is just singular for a dice. Okay? So the numbers on a die are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So the first question says, what is the probability of getting an even number? 1, 2, 3. So that would be 3 out of 6. What's the probability of just rolling a 3? Well, that would be 1 out of 6. So 3 out of 6 plus 1 out of 6, we would add those together and get 4 out of 6, which equals 2/3. And when you round that as a decimal, you should get 0.67, okay? And since we are rounding that number, we would use the congruent, or the equivalent, the rounded, almost equal, okay? B. So the probability of a number less than 3, there's only 2 chances, so that would be 2 out of 6, and a probability of a number that is greater than 5. Okay, well, there's only one number greater than 5. Okay, and do not reduce right now. Okay, wait till after you add them. 3 out of 6, 3 out of 6 is also 1/2, and that equals 0.5. Okay, number 3. These are the ones you guys really have to pay attention to. Okay, in the candy box, there are 2 pieces of cherry candy, 3 pieces of orange candy, and 4 pieces of lemon candy. Find the probabilities below. Okay, so we want the probability of cherry. We're going to make that red for cherry. And yellow is kind of hard to read, so we'll do that in purple. Now, we know that cherry is 2, and the lemon is 4, but the one thing we don't have is we don't have the total. Well, to find the total, you would take 2 plus 3 plus 4, and that gives you 9. Okay, so there's a total of 9 pieces. So the probability of a cherry would be 2 out of 9. The probability of a lemon would be 4 out of 9. Okay? So when we add those up, 2 over 9 plus 4 over 9, we get 6 over 9. And you can actually reduce that to 2/3. And when you divide that out as a decimal, you get 0.67. Okay? So we got probability of cherry and probability of orange. Well, we just did the cherry. The cherry is 2 out of 9. What's the orange? 3 out of 9. Okay? And now remember, just don't reduce until after you add. Okay, so we get 5 out of 9. And then when you guys divide that out, what did you get? Well, let's check it. 5 divided by 9? 5.55555555555. Or if you reduce that, 0.56. Okay. Example number 4. A bag contains 7 tiles lettered AWESOME. What is the probability that you will randomly choose an A or a consonant? Well, let's do this. First, we got to find the probability of A. There is 1A out of 7, so that's 1/7. Now, a consonant, to give us a little hint, is not a vowel. So, not a vowel, not a vowel, not a vowel. So, the probability of a consonant was 3 out of 7. Okay? So we just add those up, and we get 4 out of 7, which we cannot reduce. And when you divide that out, you get 0.57. Okay? All right, let's go on to the other side. Now, probabilities involving and. Okay, this measures how likely it is for one event and a separate event to occur. Okay, so this is the one where there are two completely separate events happening. Okay, and when that happens, we multiply their probabilities. Okay, so you take P1 times P2. So it's the same thing as the other side, but instead of adding, now we're going to multiply the two together. Okay, so what is the probability that the spinner will stop on a 3 on the first spin, and here's the keyword right here, and a 5 on the second spin? All right, so we've really got to look at what the words say, and or. So the probability of it landing on a 3 would be what? Well, 1 out of 8. What's the probability of it landing on a 5? 1 out of 8. So we would take those two, 1 out of 8, and we're timesing them. Okay, and that equals 1 out of 64. So for that event to occur, both of them in a row, 0.015, which when we round that, 0.02. So that's not very likely that that's going to happen. Okay. B, what is the probability that the spinner will stop on a number that is greater than 6 on the first spin and a number that is less than 3 on the other one? So numbers that are less than 3 are just 1 and 2. Greater than 6 are 8 and 7. So probability of a number greater than 6 is 2 out of 8. Probability of a number that is less than 3 is 2 out of 8. Okay, so we multiply both of those numbers. 2 times 2 is 4, and 8 times 8 is 64. Now this one we can actually reduce, okay? If you don't know, you can divide them both by 4 and get 1 out of 16. And when you divide 1 out of 16, you get 0.06. Now, example number 2. Now we've got two completely different things going on, okay? We've got a coin that is tossed and 6-sided die is rolled at the same time. Okay, so there are two things that are going on. Now, with a coin, you have either the choice of heads or tails. Okay, so that's two options. And the die has either a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so we have two different things that we have to pay attention to. Okay, so the probability of it landing on heads, well, that's only 1 out of 2. Now, the probability of, let's see, what did we have to roll? A 2, that's only 1 out of 6. Okay, so together, 1/2 times 1/6, well, that equals 1/12. Okay, and that is a decimal is 0. Oh, let's make that look nice. 0.8. Okay, we really have to listen, especially in this next one, okay? There are two separate events that are going on, okay? Miss Perez has different types of flavored coffee in her kitchen, okay? 3 bags of Colombian, 2 bags of French roast, 5 bags of Italian hazelnut. Okay? Now, altogether, that means our total is 10. Okay? Now, if Miss Perez grabs 2 bags at random, what is the probability that she will grab a French roast and then a bag of Italian hazelnut coffee? And this is the next thing, okay? Assume that she does not return the French roast bag after she grabs it, okay? I'd be like, whoa, Mr. Grice, what's going on here? Just hang on for a minute, okay? Let's talk about the probability of the French roast, okay? That probability is 2 out of 10. Now, let's talk about the probability of the hazelnut, okay? Now, how many bags of coffee did she start with? Well, she started with 10 on the first time she grabbed it. But what did she do? She took one away. So now the second time there are only 9 bags. And this is where we have to pay super close attention. Okay? Because the probability of a hazelnut is not now 5 out of 10. It's 5 out of 9 because that's all that's left. Okay? So 2 out of 10 times 5 out of 9. And that reduces to 1 over 9. And when you divide that out, 1 divided by 9 is 0.11. Okay? You have to pay attention. Okay? Alright, mixed problems. A bag contains tiles of letters that spell math team. Find the following probability. Assume that after pulling a tile out of the bag, each time what do they do to it? They put it back. Okay? So it's not like that last time. Once you grab one, you put the tile back. Okay? Now, what we're going to have you do, these ones by yourself, just make sure that you see which ones say and which ones say or. Because with and you multiply and with or you add. Okay? I want you to pause the video and I want you to try each one of these. Okay? Good luck. Okay, those are the first two. So it's 2 out of 8 and 2 out of 8. You multiply, you get 4 over 64. You can reduce that to 1 over 16, and then that equals 0.06. Okay, B was or. Or means we need to add the two numbers up. And you get 1/8 plus 2/8 equals 3/8. And then when you divide that out, you get 0.38. Okay? All right. Let's look at the next one. The probability of getting a vowel. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so the probability of getting a vowel was 3 out of 8. The probability of getting an H is 2 out of 8. Now it's and means 2, multiply. So 3 over 8 times 2 over 8 equals 6 over 64. Okay. And does that reduce? 6 over 64. Let's find out. Well, there's the fraction. Math fraction. 3 over 32. Okay. And then I just got the decimal right there, which was 0.09. Okay. And the next one. by yourself. Remember that says and that you multiply, or you add that, I'm sorry. Go ahead and pause the video. Good luck. Okay, you get 0.5. Now, did anyone catch my mistake on that last one? What's the probability of getting an H? I was looking at this way too fast. There's only one H, guys. There's only one H. Okay. Hopefully you were yelling at me through the computer. Okay. So 3 out of 36, or 3 divided by 64, is 0.5. 0.05. And does that reduce? Nope. There you go. All right. That's it for Algebra 1, Chapter 13.3 notes. As always, thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, come and find us.